In this Q&A, you were asked what needs to be done to deal with crime in the United States. And one of the things you said was reduce documented and undocumented immigration. We just need fewer immigrants in the United States. Do you remember writing that in the Q&A?
Yes, I do.
You do. The PNAS study that has looked at crime for 3 categories of people: domestically born citizens, documented immigrants, and undocumented immigrants, found that the group that commits the least crime is the undocumented immigrants, followed by the documented immigrants, and the most crime is domestic born citizens. So why would it reduce crime to stop immigrants from coming here?
Okay, that's a wonderful question.
Good.
And just so you know, I am the last of 10 children.
Okay.
And my family was the largest family ever released from a communist country in 1974. And I was born in the United States. So I'm not anti-immigration per se. I think, so I just want to point that out because
Fair.
I come from an immigrant family. I wouldn't be here. I'm actually very grateful for the immigration process of this country.
Me too. I was born in Argentina. I moved here when I was 5. Beautiful.
Okay, so we're both on the same page.
Yes.
Okay, so let me explain why at this particular moment in time as a nation, we by cutting the amount of illegal as well as legal immigration, it would reduce crime for everybody who's already here in the U.S. because it would reduce strain on classroom size. It would reduce strain on other services in aggregate. So from an aggregate perspective, we only have a finite amount of resources as a society. And right now we're running massive, massive deficits. Each $1 trillion deficit that we have on our federal books is $8,000 times 125 million full-time workers.
Okay.
So frankly, we do not have the resources to take care of who is here without adding on debt. So we need to stop. We need at a particular juncture, if you have a person, I'll give you an example. So Mexico is a wonderful country. Actually, I have a lot in common with the value system of Mexicans because I happen to be Roman Catholic.
Okay.
And they also, Mexican culture is similar to Polish culture. I happen to be Polish. We're a very matriarchal society where the mothers run the roost. And my mom was very much of that ilk. And frankly, she's who I inherited my intelligence from. My dad was a hard worker, but my mom was brilliant mentally.
Wow.
And so what I would say is if the average person in Mexico is making $10,000 per year and the average person in the United States makes $50,000 to $60,000, say $60,000 is the number we're told.
Okay.
And our infrastructure is based on $60,000 of income for people that work in our infrastructure. So now if a Mexican family is like, I really need to get to the U.S., it is rational. It is very rational for me to get to the United States. Why? The average student in Illinois probably has $12,000 to $15,000 spent on them. So if I only make 10 in Mexico and I have 2 children and I can get an education in Illinois and it's costing $25,000, I could take a lot less in the form of wages because I'm still better off for me and my family long term.
But wait a second, Bobby, I'm so confused. I apologize. Let me see if I can understand what we're saying. So we'll go back to the crime thing in a second. But so you're saying the scenario you just drew up, when you say you have a couple kids in Mexico, this hypothetical person, this is an adult making 10 grand in Mexico. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. The adult who's making 10 grand in Mexico says, I could go to the U.S. and get an education and then make more money. Is that what you said?
Children. They're
children. The children. Oh, the children.
Yeah, so let's just say you and I have children.
Okay.
We have 2 kids each. You have 2, I have 2 in this example.
You and I together, we both parent.
No, I have a wife, but let's just say you have 2 children.
Oh, you have your children and I have mine. Okay, yeah. I got you. Yep. Okay.
So you have 2 children. I have 2 children. So there's 4 in this simple school district that we fund.
Yes.
And you and I are both putting up 12 grand each for each child. So you're out 24 grand, $2 grand a month. I'm out 24 grand or $2,000 a month as well.
Okay.
So now we have a pile of 48,000 in this simple example.
Yes.
So now all of a sudden we have a teacher for our 4 children. We just hired one teacher.
Yep.
There's one teacher teaching the 4 children. Now all of a sudden, this other person comes into the neighborhood, right? Legally or illegally, and says, I'd like my child to go to school with your child.
Yep.
In this simple example of 4, now it goes to 5.
Got it.
Okay. And now when we go from a classroom size of 16 to 20, because immigration say 20%, every child, our children are going to take a haircut on attention. That's just the way it is.
Right, but Bobby, in the real world, I want to get back to crime, but in the real world, the family that comes in starts contributing to the society, both with their labor and with paying all sorts of taxes. This increases the budget for the school. The school hires more teachers. This seems like a silly example.
So here, I'll tell you why. I don't think it increases the budget as much as people think when you break down the numbers, because that person, so let's just say we're going to talk about the inner city of Chicago. Perfect example. You want to talk about crime? So if there's certain manufacturing jobs that are in Chicago, and I just told you that if I was a Mexican with 2 children and I was making $10,000 in Mexico with my wife, we were each making $10,000 each.
Yep.
If I can make it to Illinois and a manufacturing job was paying, say, $40,000 a year, I would gladly take 25% less, because I get the 2 children getting an education that's far superior than what I get in Mexico. Frankly, that's why my dad and my parents immigrated here. They probably ran the same calculation of, hey, you know what? I could make more money. I could earn less than the market, and then my children will get an education that's far superior to my home country.
Well, it may be superior or not. There's lots of bad school districts in the U.S., and there's lots of good schools in Mexico, so that's not even totally clear to me.
Well, but here's what I could tell you is the Mexican high school graduation rate suggests that in aggregate, I think last time I checked, I think it was under 60%.
Okay.
So the school system for that whole nation is very problematic.
But Bobby, here's what I'm not understanding, and we're getting so off track. If you don't dispute the numerous studies, including the PNAS study, that sounds weird, PNAS, I should say, which finds that among the 3 categories of people, domestic-born citizens commit the most crime. How mathematically do we increase the crime rate by people who commit fewer crimes coming in?
Because if you have, in this example of 5 children, your 2, my 2, and this other one.
Yeah.
When we aggregate this up to hundreds of thousands of children or millions of children across the country, and a similar 15 to 20% ratio takes place, then there's more children, that your children, theoretically, my children, that may kind of slip through the cracks or not have the attention that they would get otherwise if there wasn't a competition for those resources that society is providing.
But even if that's true, if the people who are coming in commit crime at a lower rate, it sounds like what you're arguing, if it's true, which I don't concede, but if it's true, you're arguing immigrants coming in make American-born kids commit more crime.
I'm saying is that the lack of proper resources being allocated to who's already here causes more crime to be committed. Yes. Now, in terms of children, the reason why I think what you're talking about, why children of immigrants are different than children of natural American citizens that have been here longer.
I didn't say different. I said they commit less crime.
I'm going to explain why I think that they're less likely to commit crimes that we're talking about in these studies, because the parents have, frankly, higher standards at times and expectations of their children in a foreign country than when they get comfortable in their home country. I think it's a psychological thing that you don't, if you think about it, if you move to another country or I move to another country, you have a higher expectation of yourself behaving.
You want to make a good impression, in other words.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think
No, I don't deny that. And in fact, if you're here undocumented, you know that any small infraction has the potential to get you deported. So you're particularly incentivized to better behave. So you don't deny that the immigrants commit less crime. You're just trying to explain why you're still against it.
I am against it at this particular juncture.
Okay.
Because we don't have the infrastructure to properly fund people.
Okay.
Long term, I am 100% in favor of legal immigration if we're running a balanced budget, state budget, federal budget, like all these things are tied together.
Okay.
100% in favor of immigration from all walks. This country has people from every nation on earth. I love the fact that this is the case. I would never be against that. And I think that, my point is, until we fix our existing school structure in the inner cities, our statewide infrastructure is fixed, we need to kind of pump the brakes a little bit here.
All right. I mean, we can disagree on that, but I appreciate that you're not disputing the data about crime.